Welcome to Dose of Social, your recipe for social media success. I'm Lindsay Mauk.
I'm Kayla Pearlstein.
And this is Dose of Social.
And today's guest, we have Emily Winters, the owner of Strings for Hope. Strings for Hope is a for-profit company that employs survivors of substance use disorder, human trafficking, and addiction. They create guitar string jewelry out of used guitar strings into your everyday jewelry pieces. So Lindsay and I actually have some on. She's wearing her necklace. I have on a necklace as well. So we want to go ahead and introduce Emily. Emily, thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
So
great.
Emily is a very good friend of mine. She's also actually a client of ours as well at Golden Bird Marketing. And we have a very interesting story of how we met. So Emily and I don't know if it was me that originally had met you.
I feel like I honestly have no idea if you actually met me in person. Did you meet me in person before? This is terrible. This is actually
I think from what I heard, maybe you met in person and there was some sort of follow-up.
Oh, that's right. Okay, so maybe you met me in person, and honestly, I have no idea where I was when you met me, if you did meet me in person. No, I got it. Bluebird on the Mountain thing, met a former business partner of yours.
Yes.
And then he had you reach out, and you had met me maybe at that point too. Anyways, so Kayla's great and reached out, and I didn't respond, which is just a testimony to marketing and y'all's life and how I don't necessarily envy it. She's amazing and reached out, I think, again.
Yes.
Right?
I'm notorious for the follow-up.
She's great at it, and take notes. And then again, still did not, me being me, and I think all of you other business owners out there, and you guys also get this, it filtered through, right? Like, did not check that email. I was like, I don't know who this is, to the next. And then we were placed in a business group together. And then I'm like, I have to know this woman, obviously. I had no idea who she was. She had to tell me. She was like, I reached out to you twice. And I was like, oops. And so, I don't know. It's so great. It's just so funny to see us here now, when it's been over a year that we've known each other and like have a beautiful friendship and are working together. And I just find it hilarious that it started with the classic like email, and not even a cold email, like a perfect warm email lead. And still no follow-up. But guess what? She got the client. She got the win.
I did.
So.
And she's one of our favorite clients.
And I think that's a good testament to the fact that we're all busy. And if someone doesn't respond to you the first time, don't give up on it. Right. Don't lose hope either. Because we're all busy. We're managing a lot of things. And sometimes we don't get to the emails in our inbox. And good things can still happen. So I love that story. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
So Emily, I also know that you have a really cool story of how you now became the owner of Strings for Hope. So I'd love for you to share that with Lindsay and with our listeners as well.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it brief for the podcast. But yeah, I'll tell you a little bit more about Strings for Hope. As Kayla said, we employ and empower survivors of human trafficking, substance use disorder, and domestic violence. And we do that through this jewelry. But when I first got involved with Strings for Hope, I was just a cart girl. So I would sell the jewelry downtown on Broadway, which is like a main drag in Nashville if you haven't been here. And I think you'll be going there maybe
I learned about Broadway last night. We went there. It was awesome.
Good. Okay, good. You're like, so it's cool. Awesome. And so, so I would wheel a cart out there, even in this cold weather, and would sell guitar string jewelry. And it was not made by the survivors at that point. It was made by me and a few other random people. The mission didn't really exist. And ultimately, the founder at the time, her husband built guitars. And so that's where the whole guitar strings came from. And there was a moment where we were like, we need more hands to make this product. And so like businesses do, we evolve, and we found a halfway house to work with. And so that's where I essentially felt like drawn to the mission and the women that we were working with kind of subconsciously. So when the founder at the time had the opportunity, or she wanted to leave the company ultimately. She was like, this is a lot, not really what I signed up for. I asked if I could take it over, and she said yes. And I was 19, so was kind of blissfully unaware of what business means and what marketing is for sure. What's social media? And you're like, I had no idea. And it's so funny. I could go into all the things that I messed up on and like all the things with taking it over, but I am so grateful that I did. And then, really leaned into the mission at that point that organically grew, kind of like, it is like marketing. Oh my gosh, when I say it, it's like, yeah, all of it just organically spiraled into something like bigger than myself. And so, started working with more facilities, and I grew as a person, messed up a lot.
So then, speaking of the mission, how did that then influence your business model and your operations moving forward?
Well, I mean, like I said, it was like an organic kind of spiral into a mission. So we didn't start out that way. We had no organizational structure. I feel like we were working backwards, and still am right now, even with social media. I feel like I'm still working backwards and learning, finally hiring a company to help, things like that. And I don't know if y'all have ever felt that too, but for me, with the organizational and operational structure of it all, that has just now kind of clicked in to where it needs to be. And that's been years. So I took it over legally in 2017, and it's, 2024. And here I am putting more operational and organizational structure into the company. And obviously it's hard because of the demographic we work with. And so how we operate is we go into these facilities and provide, it's a year-long work development program, and then the survivors become certified jewelers over the course of 2 years. And so we're doing that through the string, but it is certified, jewelers that they're becoming. And this whole program, the idea is to either be a career for them or it be a stepping stone into something else. So that presents its own challenges financially, emotionally. There's just so much. Case management, we're working a lot with case managers, partnering with different organizations. That's how we find the survivors we work with. So it's a lot. All that to say, sorry, rambling.
No, that's great.
Bring us in.
So you've learned a lot in the last 7 years since you took over the business. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And so you mentioned about social too, and obviously as a business owner, you wear many hats. How important has social media been for Strings for Hope and in your journey? Yeah.
So I think I love talking about how it's grown so much. I'm very proud of the 8,000 plus followers that we have right now on Instagram, and that's kind of our main platform that we use. Facebook started out really heavily there. Our demographic kind of shifted, who we started selling to. What do you guys call that? What is it?
Your target audience.
Target audience. So I was demographic. Target audience. Tell me all the marketing terms.
We have an episode on target audience for those listening who might be
interested.
Stay tuned.
So Instagram has been our one, and it has been so important. I think, ads aside, if you think money is where the importance comes in for social media, I don't know about y'all, but I feel like that's not it for me at all. It's brand presence. And as someone who really struggles with I took over this company, I've had to redo what is, people still think that we sell on a cart, and I'm no, the product looks different, we're jewelers now. And so having to show people that has been really challenging. And so social media has been kind of the driving force for that. To evolve a brand, you need somewhere to show that. Not everyone's on email, although that's very powerful. It's just, you're not going to be in front of them. And we're in Nashville. We work a lot with tourists. So social media has kind of been the driving force for branding and showing that we've evolved.
I love that. So you have a D2C business as well that you're highlighting on social media. How do you find content for social media? How do you shine a spotlight on all the different aspects that you're doing? You've got your support for women in recovery. You've got the jeweler. Are you training them to become jewelers? Are you offering classes?
Yeah. So the structure of it all is we make all the product in-house. So the strings that we're using are like broken strings that have been played on by different artists, and that's just for sustainability aspects. So we're highlighting sustainability on socials. We're highlighting how it's made, which is, we just became certified by the state, and so that means that they like say like, hey, your jewelry is good enough to be like jewelers, like your way of creating is valued. And so so that is kind of a new thing, but we've done it all ourselves. And so that journey of like having to highlight that on social media is honestly really hard. I feel like for my business having so many buckets, right, like we talk, or pillars, we have, that's how we have to do it, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like looking to Kayla because that's how she has helped me do it. Because before, I think I was throwing things at a wall, and that worked for a time. I'm not going to say that that didn't, help, but it would be more like, oh, today I want to focus on the mission aspect, and then tomorrow I want to showcase like the social or the environmental good, or that it's like a really cool and valuable product. It just, or the musical side, it's just so much. So having like a plan, it has been really good to have like structured timeframes to showcase those things.
No, that's great.
So, Lindsay, can you explain to our listeners that might not know what a D2C company or brand is?
Yep. So direct D2C stands for direct to consumer. So what that means is you are a business like Emily and Strings for Hope, and you are selling your product directly to your consumers through your online website. So that could be through an online e-commerce platform such as Shopify, WooCommerce, which is the WordPress connection to for e-commerce. There could be BigCommerce. There's lots of different platforms that you can be using. Shopify is the main one that we work with at LTM Digital. But essentially, direct to consumer is a business where you are selling a product directly to your consumer online. And as a consumer, you for sure, I'm sure, have bought something from one of these stores before. So it's always great too to consider buying directly from the company itself versus going to buy it through another platform such as Amazon or a retailer. And obviously we want to give love to our retailers too. We love our retailers, but as a business owner, typically the best profit margins come from selling direct to consumer.
And also support your small businesses.
Yes.
And it's great that you're working with someone well-versed in social media like Kayla that can really help you understand like where those areas of opportunity are to highlight your business on social.
Before we dive back in, we wanted to give a quick shout out to our incredible Season 2 sponsor, the Sapphire Suite.
Are you looking for a space that inspires creativity, fosters connection, and supports you in growing your business? Located in the heart of Franklin and Cool Springs, Tennessee, the Sapphire Suite is a co-working space designed exclusively for entrepreneurs and business owners. Whether you need a stylish spot to host a meeting, a quiet corner to focus, or a supportive community of diverse thinkers who will challenge and support you, this is the place to be. Subscribe to our newsletter and receive a free day pass to experience our amazing community of business owners for yourself.
This episode of Dose of Social was brought to you by the Sapphire Suite. Thank you so much to the Sapphire Suite for sponsoring Season 2 of Dose of Social. So I'd love to talk with both of you about how you collaborate on that process. Emily, are you going through like, hey, we've got an event this weekend, or we're in the factory today? Like, how are you both collaborating on this, and how has working with Kayla helped you to understand like those areas of where you can create content?
Gosh, I love this question.
Me too.
I feel called out. No, I think, okay, so ideal world, right? Like when you guys sign up, if you work with someone outside or you have someone on your team doing social media, I used to have someone on my team doing the social media. It would be like we had like once a week check-ins, or we had like once a month check-ins, and it was really hard. I'm a CEO, so I have the CEO brain. Y'all know that thing?
You wear many hats.
The many hats, but have you ever heard that just like we're just kind of always dreaming, and that has hindered me a little bit with staying focused with how we collaborate. So I think initially it really worked out that I knew Kayla, and like we became friends.
Yeah.
Over the course of this time frame. We didn't start working together until recently. Mm-hmm. And she has such a structured way, which is I think companies outside of this, they do. That's the whole idea. It's helpful for them to check in and have those planning sessions. So we collaborate like with the content side. We've had images already taken like in bulk, and so they have access to that. Depending on like for my level of like her understanding us and knowing my brand, I really give like a lot of creative direction, and I'm kind of just like figure it out. But which sounds like scary, I think, to most, but that's like a trust level thing. I think initially it's like, you had an intake form, and if I did not fill out the intake form correctly, you ask me those questions, and we really just kind of like baseline. I feel like you just like know exactly what to ask me as far as like how we want to set up this month's goals, or we want to set up the year. Just through us being friends, you've kind of known that, but I want you to talk a little bit more about like collaboration, maybe you.
Yeah, so typically we'll send an intake form to our clients that ask a lot of questions on your business goals, social media goals, branding goals, which actually our intake form, I believe, is available in our resources.
The Dose of Social resource section, doseofsocial.com.
That's nice.
And also our content calendar is in there, which Emily was talking about having a structural plan. So our template is also in there as well. But we'll send that over to clients to kind of get a better understanding of what they're looking for, who their competition is, what types of brands inspire them with the look and feel, so we can kind of make sure that we're aligned. But it's also just kind of being high touch with your clients as well. So I know that Emily is very busy. I know that sometimes she's the type of person that will pick up and see my text message and then forget to respond.
Remember, I didn't respond to her emails.
So stay on top of the follow-up.
Yeah. Somehow we're still friends.
Even better friends now.
It's true.
It's true. So we just kind of stay very closely connected, so I am aware of what's going on. So Emily's company also does a lot of pop-ups, and so I'll always check in with her to see what's happening this month. If I know she's going to be somewhere, I try to stay on her to post on stories while she's there.
Yeah, and I think that's it. This is super valuable conversation, because I know a lot of people are listening to this and probably are like me. Like, I think it's very intimidating to think, like, if you think you're going to hire a company and that's going to help you, or you're going to have a person and that's going to help you, or you're going to do it yourself, like, it's so intimidating from the business owner perspective. We're like, no, it's not just like giving it away and like y'all figuring it out. It's a lot of work. And so I think knowing that like I can do it, and I'm very chaotic and very like not answering texts and emails all the time because of many hats. I feel like if you just know that like that the company or the person you're working with, or even trusting, like, maybe it's a family member who's doing your social media currently, like knowing that you can have communication, like they're not going to be disappointed in you because I think there's a lot of fear there when it comes to like working with someone else. You guys feel that?
I also think it's about control too. As a business owner,
too.
you are so deep in your business, and you know all the things, and it's all in your brain, right? So then to work with someone on the social media side like Kayla and say, okay, I need to help you understand all the things that we're doing so you can highlight them on social media, like that takes a level of understanding and also willingness to do that.
Totally. It's a vulnerability. You have to be vulnerable in a way, and in a good way. I think at the point you get to your in business, and I think it needs to not be the point of, oh, I just can't do it anymore. It needs to be like, I'm willing to evolve in how I do things. It's really hard. I feel like it's really hard. It's a control thing, I totally feel.
Yeah, and I think some of the issues I've run into with clients in the past is we are social media managers. We are not mind readers. So unless you are speaking up about what you like and don't like, we can't tell what you're thinking. So Emily's also very clear on if she doesn't want a certain image and why she doesn't want that image, so we know not to use it again. Or if she wants to talk about something specific, or I think we made a post about your permanent jewelry, and you were like, I'll rewrite this because I want it to say something specific. And so she was going to give us that copy, and we'd put it in the image, and there you go.
Yeah.
But without that communication, we can't do our job the way that you would like it.
But what's great about this is like if you're working with a good company or someone on your team, if the part of like just retaining that note of like the moment that I'm like, oh, hey, this copy needed to be a little different, or this image and why I want to tailor it this way towards my audience, hopefully are like retaining that information and realizing like that's a part of your brand and messaging. And I think trusting, that's where the vulnerability comes in, and the trust is like, hey, they didn't mess up. Like they're not in your head. And so I think that's just such a learning curve with social media itself too, because then you have to sometimes backtrack and be like, well, this way works differently. That's hard too. It's like the testing that people will do in marketing in general. This isn't just social media, just marketing in general. All of this A and B testing on like images and like how you post and how you sell to your clients or to your product and how you talk about it, that evolves. And so again, going back into vulnerability and trust and like communication, hopefully you find people that can like help you work through that. And I feel like I have the right people to do that. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great. It's about finding the right folks for your team and folks that you trust, and also having that feedback loop is really important, but then also not getting upset by the feedback, right? Saying, okay, like Emily wants to use the word gold-filled jewelry, not the word gold jewelry. I'm just going to make a note of it, and I'm going to make sure that every time we move forward, and you build on that, and you keep building. And then, like, as a social media manager, you're not going to nail your brand voice on day one, right? Yep. It takes time to learn and understand. But I think, like you said, that willingness to open yourself up and the willingness to create content and work with someone to help identify and develop your voice is really important, and also sets you up for social media success too.
And I think it's also important to note, especially with product-based businesses, that what's working for other people is not necessarily going to work for you. Mm-hmm. What's working for another jewelry company might not necessarily work for your brand. And things that happened a year or two ago on social media are very different now. So just important things to keep in mind.
I think I just realized we're both in like such saturated markets of like, you're in social media and marketing and I'm in jewelry, and the mission part, social enterprise, is less saturated, but like as far as jewelry and standing out, it's challenging being in such a saturated market. So of course it's not gonna, product in general, it's your testing, and then you're also trying to create your own like virality in a way. And like that's hard because you don't know, you just are throwing stuff at a wall. So finding people to do that with you is so great. I think just remembering that your social media manager is a human, I think, and like they're gonna mess up and you're gonna mess up, and communication is key. It sounds so basic, but it's so true.
So Emily, what advice would you give for small business owners that are hesitant about investing in social media?
I feel like really just check where you're at. I mean, on that trust level, and if you're ready to like, if you're just, why you're doing it. Step one, why are you doing it? Why are you investing? Is it because you need it off of your plate? Like that's a valid reason, but are you ready to start giving some of the reins? Because that's just like so hard for so many of us, and I'm sure you guys feel that way in your own businesses at times. I also would give the advice of don't let the financial piece of it all hold you back from the opportunity. I don't know how to make that make sense, other than I think giving more of an explanation and an example that people will think that if you're putting money into a social media manager, that they're going to immediately make that return for you. And that's not what it is. I think if your social media manager's listening to this podcast, you're like, yes, you're probably like ringing a bell or something right now, but like, it's not what it is. And I think companies need to listen to this and understand that. So the advice is to debunk that and realize that this is, if you're hiring someone for organic social media management, they should be elevating your brand and your platforms. I mean, that's really it. And you're finding a groove. And so kind of just changing, my advice is to reframe how you already view it, because I know how you view it, because I am you and I've been you. And I thought you were going to make me tons of money too. Not you specifically.
Well, my code does.
Yeah, her code actually does.
Kayla, what is your code?
You can shop stringsforhope.com at with GB15 for 15% off.
The code. Yeah.
Nice.
Exclusively here.
Yeah, that's great advice. I think it's also being willing to film content, being willing to put yourself on video, being willing to allow your social media manager or someone else from your business to come in and film folks making jewelry and whatnot. So having that willingness ready, and then the investment commitment, I think, is another important thing that you touched on, because if you are going to invest in a social media program for your business, really invest in a social media program. Don't just give it a 1-month trial, because that's not necessarily going to give you the results that you're looking for. I mean, Kayla and I were just talking about this last night, actually. Invest in a minimum of 3 to 6 months
Right.
for your business, because that's how long it's going to take to get results. And your social media manager is not going to nail your brand tone and voice and your content overnight, right? So it's willingness to invest in the process and educate and learn together.
I love that. And also the whole brand voice and messaging, another advice piece, would be great to have that before. And there are people for that, turns out. And it's not
brand guidelines, Emily.
Brand guidelines. So, fun fact, I did not have them. And so remember the whole working backwards thing? I feel that so deeply. So if you're like, oh, I can't hire a social media manager because I don't have my brand guidelines. Okay, advice, it would be helpful to have that first. But also, if you're like, but I need the social media now, I need that. Okay, we'll move forward with that. But that's where you definitely know that 3 months just went to 6 months. And that's because they're working with you. They'll on all of that. And they're not the ones that are supposed to create that. Their job is social media management, not creating your brand guidelines. Although I'm sure they have tons of recommendations because they're in the field. But there's just so many things to know that it's not all one-stop shop. And I learned that. So humbly, I'm saying that because I was like, you can't do it all? How annoying. No.
And fun fact, we also have a brand guidelines template in our resources center on our website.
Y'all, go get all their templates. That's crazy.
Resource section on the Dose of Social website is now live. Well, Emily, this was so amazing. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing.
You.
Is there anything else you want to share with our audience before we go?
I mean, I feel like we've said a lot here, so I feel pretty good about all the advice and the conversation about it. I hope this helps people who are on the fence with hiring a social media manager or even just doing it themselves, realizing that, guess what, you don't have to wear all of those hats, and it doesn't encompass all of those things that you thought it encompasses. So I hope this is helpful. Please go to stringsforhope.com and learn more about us and our mission, and get us on Instagram and all the other platforms, TikTok, all the things.
And Emily, if people are here in Nashville and they want to set up an experience with you, they want permanent jewelry, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so you can go to our website. We actually have an experience page, and it's for private parties, or we also do corporate gifting and different things like that. But we have experiences like permanent jewelry, and you can make it Nashville permanent by adding a guitar string. We have experiences where we're engraving and we're making our own pieces. We have musical experiences because obviously Nashville and it's all made out of strings. So just go to our website and go to that experience tab.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, you're in the right city for your business.
I know, right? It's great.
All right. Thank you so much for listening to Dose of Social. We're out. Bye.